right, now to our morning business report. The U.S. is expected to lose tens of billions of dollars in tourism revenue this year.
And some retailers are raising prices to see just how much you're willing to pay. Channel 3's Jane King is live at the New York Stock Exchange with those stories and more. Not my clothes, Jane.
No, don't mess with our clothes. Good morning to you, Tracy and Caitlin. So the U.S. stands to lose about $30 billion in international tourism this year as the country's political environment and also the strong dollar continue to deter foreign visitors. Now, the World Travel and Tourism Council says Canadians are spending their money domestically or they're going to Latin America and the Caribbean. More Western Europeans are going to the Middle East, and Southeast Asians show rising interest in Europe. Well, a handful of apparel retailers, including Levi's and Aritzia, are teasing more full-price products. They're testing how much wealthier shoppers are willing to pay despite the tariffs. Now, they have not been disappointed so far. Levi Strauss, for instance, raised prices on some products in July and saw no slowdown in demand. And Aritzia's finance chief echoed that, saying there had been minimal impact on how much U.S. customers were ordering after the luxury maker raised some prices earlier this year. And the latest social media trend is the great lock-in. The trend pushes participants to be hyper-disciplined and chip away at their annual goals between August and December. The months-long challenge, which resembles last year's Winter Arc Challenge, aims to encourage self-improvement and personal momentum after summer indulgences, according to Fast Company. And stocks wobbled Friday after that weaker-than-expected jobs report. Now, the weak job growth does likely mean an interest rate cut this month, but it did also stoke some fears of a recession. Today, we're going to bounce back a little bit. The Dow's up about 60. Live from the New York Stock Exchange, I'm Jane King. Back to you.
All right, Jane.